2 decades before Jeffrey Epstein's arrest, he was photographed laughing with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. The image seems innocent enough. 2 wealthy men at a party. But this wasn't just any party. It was 1997, and according to court documents that surfaced years later, this was during the peak of Epstein's alleged criminal activity. What investigators discovered about their friendship will make you question everything you thought you knew about power, privilege, and the secrets hidden in plain sight. In 1987, 2 ambitious men crossed paths in Manhattan's elite social scene. But their meeting wasn't random. Donald Trump was already a household name, his real estate empire growing alongside his celebrity status. Jeffrey Epstein remained more mysterious, a financial advisor whose client list stayed hidden behind layers of secrecy. Both men understood that in New York's power structure, connections mattered more than money. The Palladium nightclub on East 14th Street served as one of their earliest meeting grounds. Trump frequented the venue during its peak years, drawn by the mix of celebrities, models, and wealthy socialites. Epstein moved through the same circles, his presence noted, but his background rarely questioned. The club's VIP sections provided perfect cover for conversations between men who traded in influence rather than mere cash. Trump's penthouse parties at Trump Tower created another intersection point. These gatherings attracted Manhattan's elite during the height of the 1980s real estate boom. Epstein appeared at several of these events, his youth and apparent wealth opening doors that remained closed to others. Witnesses later described him as charming and well-connected, always accompanied by attractive young women who seemed eager to please. The exclusive Century Club on West 43rd Street also facilitated their early interactions. This private institution, founded in 1847, required membership approval from existing members. Both Trump and Epstein gained access through mutual acquaintances who vouched for their social standing. The club's dining rooms and private meeting spaces allowed for conversations away from public scrutiny. Manhattan's social landscape in the 1980s created perfect conditions for their friendship to develop. Wall Street excess fueled parties that lasted until dawn. Real estate developers like Trump became celebrities in their own right. Financial advisors like Epstein operated with minimal oversight, their methods protected by client confidentiality laws. The era's culture celebrated wealth without questioning its sources. Roy Cohn, the notorious lawyer and political fixer, played a crucial role in connecting the 2 men. Cohn mentored Trump during the early years of his career, teaching him how to navigate New York's complex web of power brokers. Epstein moved in similar circles, his introduction to Manhattan's elite facilitated by figures like Cohn, who understood how the system really worked. Mutual acquaintances from Palm Beach also strengthened their connection. Both men maintained residences in Florida, where the social season brought together wealthy individuals from across the country. These introductions occurred at charity galas and private dinner parties, events where guest lists remained confidential and conversations stayed off the record. The atmosphere of the 1980s New York allowed relationships like theirs to flourish without public examination. Media coverage focused on business deals and celebrity appearances rather than investigating the personal connections between powerful figures. Wealth provided insulation from scrutiny, while social status offered protection from unwanted attention. What began as networking between 2 ambitious men gradually evolved into something more substantial. Trump's celebrity status provided Epstein with social legitimacy, while Epstein's mysterious financial success intrigued Trump. Their friendship developed through shared access to exclusive venues and mutual contacts who facilitated introductions. This initial connection established patterns that would define their relationship for decades. Both men understood the value of discretion in their personal dealings. Both operated in worlds where appearances mattered more than reality. Their Manhattan meeting set the foundation for a friendship that would span nearly 20 years and involve shared access to exclusive properties across multiple states. The specific social events that cemented their bond reveal even more troubling details. Between 1990 and 2005, Trump and Epstein appeared together at over a dozen documented social events, but the guest lists tell a disturbing story. these gatherings weren't your typical charity fundraisers or business mixers. Photography from these events captures both men surrounded by unusually young women, their ages raising questions that investigators would later pursue through court testimony and witness statements. The 1992 calendar girls' party at Mar-a-Lago stands out among their documented appearances together. Video footage from that evening shows Trump and Epstein as the only older men present, surrounded by approximately 28 women who appeared to be in their late teens and early 20s. The two men laugh and point at the women, treating the gathering more like a private viewing than a social event. Trump can be seen whispering to Epstein throughout the evening, their familiarity suggesting this arrangement was nothing new. Mar-a-Lago hosted multiple gatherings where both men appeared together during the 1990s. Staff members later described these events as different from the club's typical social functions. The guest list remained deliberately small, usually fewer than 50 people. Security was heightened during these parties, with additional personnel stationed at entrances and throughout the property. The gatherings typically lasted well into the early morning hours, long after most legitimate social events would conclude. Private parties at Trump Tower also brought them together regularly during this period. These events occurred in Trump's penthouse, away from the public areas of the building. Witnesses describe seeing young women entering the building through private elevators, bypassing the main lobby entirely. The parties often coincided with modeling events or fashion shows, providing cover for the unusual demographics of the guest lists. Court documents later revealed a pattern across these gatherings. The women present were consistently young, often modeling or aspiring to careers in entertainment. Many lacked the social connections or wealth typically required for entry into such exclusive circles. Their presence at these events raised questions about how they gained access and what role they were expected to play. Witness testimony describes an atmosphere that prioritized discretion above all else. Attendees signed agreements preventing them from discussing the events publicly. Photography was restricted during most gatherings, with professional photographers handling documentation rather than allowing guests to take their own pictures. Cell phones were often collected at the door during later events, ensuring conversations remained private. Former staff members described these parties as serving multiple purposes beyond simple socializing. Business discussions occurred in private rooms, while the larger gathering continued in main areas. The events provided networking opportunities for both men's respective interests, with Trump expanding his celebrity connections while Epstein cultivated relationships with wealthy individuals who might require financial services. The frequency of these gatherings increased during the mid-1990s, coinciding with Epstein's rising profile in Palm Beach society. Both men understood the value of hosting events that combined business with pleasure, creating environments where deals could be discussed away from formal office settings. What investigators discovered about the true nature of these social events painted a troubling picture. Court filings revealed that many of these parties occurred during the same period when Epstein's alleged criminal activity reached its peak. The timing wasn't coincidental. These gatherings provided perfect cover for activities that required privacy and discretion. The network of powerful people who facilitated these events extends far beyond Trump and Epstein themselves. The friendship between Trump and Epstein wasn't isolated. It existed within a web of powerful figures who all seemed to know each other's secrets. This network operated like an exclusive club where membership required wealth, influence, and most importantly, discretion. The same names appeared repeatedly at the same events, creating a closed loop of mutual protection that insulated its members from outside scrutiny. Ghislaine Maxwell served as a crucial connector between the two men. The British socialite had cultivated relationships with powerful figures across multiple continents, her father's media empire having provided early access to political and business leaders. Maxwell frequently appeared at events where both Trump and Epstein were present, often serving as a social facilitator who introduced guests and managed conversations. Her townhouse in Manhattan became another meeting point where these connections deepened. Politicians from both parties moved through their shared circles. Senators, governors, and foreign dignitaries attended the same charity galas and private dinners. These figures provided legitimacy to gatherings that might otherwise attract unwanted attention. Their presence suggested respectability, making it easier for other powerful individuals to justify their own participation in these exclusive social events. Business leaders from Wall Street and international finance also strengthened the network. These individuals offered more than just social companionship. They provided practical services that kept the network functioning. Banking relationships, investment opportunities, and financial structures that protected wealth all flowed through these connections. The line between personal friendship and professional services became deliberately blurred. Palm Beach society created another layer of mutual contacts. The exclusive community attracted wealthy retirees, international business figures, and entertainment industry leaders who spent winter months in Florida. Country clubs like the Bath and Tennis Club and the Everglades Club served as neutral territories where introductions occurred naturally. These relationships extended beyond seasonal socializing into year-round business partnerships and personal friendships. Entertainment industry figures added glamour and media connections to the network. Celebrities, producers, and media executives appeared at the same events, their presence helping to normalize gatherings that might otherwise seem unusual. Their involvement also provided cover through media relationships that could manage negative coverage or redirect public attention when necessary. The network's protection mechanisms became clear through how information was controlled. Media figures within the circle ensured that certain stories never reached publication. Legal professionals provided advice on managing potential problems before they became public scandals. Financial advisors structured transactions that made it difficult for investigators to trace money flows or establish clear connections between network members. International connections expanded the network's reach and protection. Foreign businessmen, diplomats, and aristocrats provided opportunities for activities to occur in jurisdictions with different legal standards or enforcement priorities. Private islands, international flights, and foreign bank accounts created layers of complexity that challenged investigators working within single legal systems. Many of these mutual contacts later faced their own legal troubles. Financial crimes, tax evasion, and other charges began surfacing among network members during the 2000s and 2010s. The pattern suggested that the protective mechanisms that had shielded the group for decades were finally breaking down under increased scrutiny from law enforcement agencies. This interconnected web of relationships reveals how power and privilege can shield individuals from scrutiny for decades. The network operated through shared access to exclusive properties where privacy was guaranteed and questions weren't asked. Trump and Epstein didn't just share friends. They shared access to exclusive properties where privacy was guaranteed and questions weren't asked. These locations operated under different rules than public venues, creating environments where wealthy individuals could interact without fear of unwanted observation or media coverage. Mar-a-Lago became the primary intersection point for their activities. Epstein visited Trump's Palm Beach resort dozens of times throughout the 1990s and early 2000s. Staff records show his name appearing on guest lists for private dinners, weekend gatherings, and special events. The 126-room property provided multiple private spaces where conversations could occur away from other guests. Epstein often arrived with young women who were introduced as models or assistants, their presence becoming routine enough that staff stopped questioning their frequent appearances. Trump made documented visits to Epstein-connected properties in Manhattan and the Caribbean. Flight logs place him at Epstein's New York townhouse on East 71st Street multiple times during the late 1990s. The five-story mansion featured private meeting rooms, a media room, and residential quarters that allowed for extended stays. Security cameras monitored all entrances, but the footage remained under Epstein's control. Both men understood how to use their respective properties to maintain social networks that served multiple purposes. Trump's Mar-a-Lago hosted charity events that provided legitimate cover for private gatherings. The resort's membership structure created natural exclusivity, ensuring that only pre-approved individuals gained access to events. Epstein's properties operated with even greater secrecy, requiring special invitations and signed confidentiality agreements from guests. Staff arrangements at these locations prioritized discretion above standard hospitality practices. Employees at Mar-a-Lago received specific instructions about maintaining guest privacy, with additional compensation for working private events. Background checks were required for staff members who worked gatherings where both Trump and Epstein were present. Similar protocols existed at Epstein's properties, where employees signed extensive non-disclosure agreements. Security measures went beyond typical wealthy estate protections. Private security firms handled perimeter monitoring during special events. Guest lists were distributed only to essential personnel, with copies destroyed after events concluded. Communication systems allowed hosts to coordinate activities across different areas of large properties without relying on standard hotel or resort infrastructure. The exclusivity of these venues allowed activities to occur away from public scrutiny that would have been impossible in hotels or public event spaces. Private dining rooms, residential suites, and recreational facilities created multiple opportunities for confidential meetings. The property's layouts provided natural separation between different groups of guests, allowing hosts to manage who interacted with whom throughout events. Former employees later provided investigators with concerning details about activities at these properties. Housekeeping staff described unusual requests for room preparation and cleanup. Security personnel reported instructions to avoid certain areas during specific time periods. Catering workers noticed patterns in guest demographics that differed from typical high society events. Kitchen staff at Mar-a-Lago described receiving orders for meals to be delivered to specific rooms rather than served in common dining areas. Maintenance workers reported being asked to avoid certain floors during private gatherings. Transportation staff arranged airport pickups for guests whose identities were not disclosed in advance. These shared spaces provided the perfect environment for a friendship that thrived on secrecy and mutual benefit. The properties created controlled environments where powerful individuals could interact without external oversight. Documentation shows how long this carefully constructed arrangement actually lasted. For nearly 2 decades, Trump and Epstein maintained their friendship, but court records reveal the relationship had distinct phases and a dramatic ending. Their documented interactions began in 1987 and continued through 2004, spanning crucial years in both men's careers. The friendship survived Trump's multiple marriages, business bankruptcies, and Epstein's growing wealth and influence. The late 1980s through early 1990s marked their initial bonding period. Trump was establishing himself as a celebrity businessman, while Epstein built his mysterious financial empire. Phone records from this era show regular contact between their offices. Social calendars placed them at the same Manhattan events multiple times per month. Their relationship operated primarily through New York's elite social circuit during these formative years. The mid-1990s brought their friendship to its peak intensity. Both men had established residences in Palm Beach, creating year-round opportunities for interaction. Mar-a-Lago guest logs show Epstein's visits increased dramatically during this period. The 1992 Calendar Girls Party occurred during these peak years, along with numerous other documented gatherings. Flight records indicate Trump made several trips to Epstein's Manhattan townhouse between 1994 and 1997. Their interactions reached maximum frequency during 1997 through 2001. Epstein appeared at Mar-a-Lago events almost monthly during peak social seasons. Trump attended parties at Epstein's properties in Manhattan and potentially other locations. Witness statements describe this period as when both men seemed most comfortable in each other's company, often seen in deep conversation at social events. The early 2000s brought subtle changes as both men's public profiles evolved differently. Trump's reality television career was launching while Epstein maintained his preference for operating behind the scenes. Their appearances together became less frequent, though still documented at key social events. The dynamics began shifting as Trump courted mainstream media attention, while Epstein avoided public scrutiny. Warning signs appeared as early as 2002, when law enforcement agencies began preliminary investigations into activities in Palm Beach. Sources close to both men reported increased tension in their interactions. Social events that previously brought them together started occurring less frequently. Staff members noticed changes in how they communicated during gatherings. The year 2003 brought accelerated changes to their relationship. Epstein's legal troubles were beginning to surface through law enforcement channels. Trump's team reportedly started conducting background reviews of his social connections. Their documented appearances together dropped significantly during this period, suggesting deliberate distancing was already underway. The specific incident in 2004 that allegedly caused their falling out involved a Palm Beach property transaction. Both men had bid on the same mansion, with Trump ultimately securing the purchase. However, sources suggest the property dispute masked deeper concerns about Epstein's increasing legal vulnerabilities. The timing of their falling out coincided with intensifying law enforcement attention. The dissolution of their friendship happened with remarkable speed considering its two-decade duration. Social events that previously included both men suddenly featured only one or the other. Staff at Mar-a-Lago received instructions that Epstein was no longer welcome at the resort. Communication between their offices ceased entirely. The friendship that lasted nearly 20 years ended abruptly in 2004, just 1 year before Epstein's first arrest. The timing raises questions about what Trump may have known about the legal troubles that would soon engulf his former friend. What caused this sudden and permanent rift reveals the calculated nature of their relationship's end. In 2004, something happened between Trump and Epstein that ended their friendship forever, and the timing couldn't have been more significant. The surface story involved a Palm Beach real estate transaction that turned both men into bitter rivals. But investigators later suspected this business dispute served as convenient cover for more serious concerns about Epstein's mounting legal troubles. The property at the center of their conflict was a sprawling oceanfront mansion at 515 North County Road in Palm Beach. The estate, known as Maison de l'Amitié, had belonged to bankruptcy mogul Abe Guzman before his death. Both Trump and Epstein placed competing bids on the 40,000 square foot property during the estate sale process. Trump ultimately secured the purchase for $41 million, outbidding Epstein by several million. Real estate disputes weren't uncommon among Palm Beach's wealthy residents, but this transaction triggered an unusually hostile response. Sources close to both men described the competition as personal rather than purely financial. Epstein reportedly felt betrayed by Trump's aggressive bidding tactics, while Trump viewed Epstein's involvement as an unwelcome intrusion into his territory. Trump's team later claimed he banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago following their real estate dispute, though staff records make the timing difficult to verify precisely. Some former employees reported receiving instructions about Epstein's banned status, while others suggested the prohibition had been in place earlier. The conflicting accounts raise questions about whether the ban was retroactively justified or genuinely implemented in 2004. Law enforcement sources suggested Trump may have possessed advanced knowledge of investigations targeting Epstein. By 2004, preliminary inquiries into activities in Palm Beach were already underway, though not yet public knowledge. Trump's sudden distancing from Epstein occurred months before these investigations became widely known, suggesting possible inside information about coming legal troubles. The transformation in both men's public statements about each other proved dramatic and immediate. Prior to 2004, Trump had described Epstein as a friend who enjoyed beautiful women. After their falling out, Trump's comments became notably restrained. He began emphasizing limited contact and downplaying the significance of their previous. Epstein similarly altered his public references to Trump following their split. The financiers stopped mentioning their friendship in social settings and avoided events where Trump might appear. Former associates described Epstein as bitter about the property transaction, but unusually reluctant to discuss details of their conflict. The genuine nature of their falling out remains disputed among investigators who studied their relationship. Some viewed the real estate dispute as authentic, noting both men's competitive personalities and history of business conflicts. Others suspected strategic distancing, pointing to the convenient timing just before Epstein's legal troubles became public. Additional evidence suggested their break involved more than property disagreements. Staff members at Mar-a-Lago reported increased security protocols around the same time Epstein was banned. Background checks on social contacts were reportedly intensified. These measures suggested concerns beyond ordinary business rivalry. Whatever caused their split, it occurred just 1 year before Epstein's first arrest in 2005. The proximity of these events raised persistent questions about what Trump may have known about his former friend's activities. The documented friendship between these two men reveals disturbing truths about how power networks operate when wealth and social status provide protection from scrutiny, leaving the public to wonder what other dangerous relationships continue to hide behind the facade of legitimate business and social connections. The Trump-Epstein friendship reveals how power networks operate in plain sight, protected by wealth and social status. Their documented relationship spanned nearly 20 years, involving exclusive properties, carefully curated social events, and mutual connections that provided layers of protection from scrutiny. This case demonstrates how privilege can shield questionable activities for decades. Look around at today's power circles. Examine the connections between wealthy individuals, politicians, and celebrities who move through the same exclusive venues. Subscribe for more investigations into these hidden networks. Like this video if you believe transparency matters. What other secrets remain buried in the intersection of power, privilege, and criminal activity? Let us know what you think in the comments and see you next time on Crime Republic.